Josh Pate dropped his record predictions for the SEC. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Josh Pate of the Josh Pate College Football Show dropped his season predictions for the SEC, and the Oklahoma Sooners came in at 8-4.
Interesting, and it's funny because he said on his show that he also put a nice sum of money on John Mateer to win the Heisman Trophy. So in his mind, it appears that Mateer is going to go crazy, put up ridiculous numbers, so ridiculous that he ends up taking home the Heisman Trophy. But Oklahoma doesn't win enough games unless he believes Oklahoma gets into the playoffs at 8-4. And that's a little far-fetched to believe. I know that everyone's still very much on this schedule and believe that the schedule is going to be super tough and that it's going to be very much impossible to overcome. I don't think it's going to be impossible to overcome, but I digress. 8-4 is a very interesting prediction for Oklahoma. He also threw out, he got Texas sitting at, you got Alabama 10-2, Texas 10-2. You got Florida at 9-3. Their schedule is just as tough, but it appears that he believes that their schedule, they'll have the ability to overcome with Georgia at 9-3. That one to me is interesting. He is down on them and LSU, who will also tie us with South Carolina at 8-4. I'm actually have the question, John. He has 6 teams at 8-4. Is that statistically possible?
It is. I remember I ran through this a few weeks ago. There's a great college football playoff predictor out there.
I've been playing with that as well.
Yeah, and you could end up with quite a few 8-4, 9-3s if certain things fall the way they fall. I mean, you're going to have a lot of this beaten up on each other sort of a situation. And this year in particular, I think it's so wide open that there's going to be a lot of the SEC eating itself. And that's why some of the college football playoff committee guidance on strength of schedule is going to be so important as November rolls into December, because you're going to have some 9-3 teams that are going to have to be in the discussion, because a team like Florida or Oklahoma could be really good and be some of the best teams in the country. But a team like Oklahoma, what if they lose to Texas? What if they lose on the road at South Carolina and lose to Alabama on the road, but they come away with wins against Tennessee on the road? They beat Michigan. They beat LSU. I mean, you're going to have some really quality wins and maybe even some quality losses that you're going to have a serious discussion about this team. What if Texas goes 10-2, week 1 loses to Ohio State, loses to Oklahoma in the Red River Showdown? I mean, that's still going to be very much a playoff team, but those 9-3 teams, some of those 8-4 teams are going to have some serious consideration, because again, the strength of schedule is so crazy, but it's so wide open this year that, again, I think you're going to have some 10-2 representation in the SEC title game. You're going to have some 9-3 teams pushing for playoff spots.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have that, especially with, like you said, the way that the SEC will most likely cannibalize each other. Mm-hmm. And because there's a lot of quote unquote refreshing and rebuilding happening in the SEC this year. A lot of newer quarterbacks. We've reminded you all this a few times, especially in Oklahoma's schedule. So having a lot of new quarterbacks, that usually leads to a little bit more chaos. It leads to opportunities for things to not go the right way. When you have a veteran and you're consistent on it, then things usually are a lot easier to predict. So, but him having a big log jam at 8-4 is kind of fascinating. But having Florida going 9-3, that means they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think Georgia makes it in at 9-3 unless they beat Texas and Alabama. I guess for me, I'm wondering, I need to go watch and see if he provides us who the wins and the losses are, like which teams, to help determine if it's viable. Because to me, as we talked about on the SEC Squad Show, the SEC's opportunity to get 5 teams in is for Florida or Oklahoma to be one of that 15 at that 9-3. That means that you can't have Kentucky, Mississippi State, Arkansas being that good. Like, somebody's got to fall off. I do think Vanderbilt's going to end up being better than people expect. I think Diego Pavia's got it, and I think their defense is going to be a lot more solid this year, with Clark Lee passing the mantle on to one of his young assistants. But yeah, you're going to need a lot more. You're going to need a lot more teams faltering if you want to get 5 teams into the tourney.
Yeah, because I don't think you get multiple 9-3 teams. I think you could get one 9-3 team, and I think that could be Oklahoma or Florida. But yeah, man, it's gonna be really interesting because there is a lot of competition, and it's not a stretch to consider the fact that you have several 9-3 teams, or only one 11-1 team, or multiple 10-2s, or even it's going to be one of those years that we look up in November and you're going to have like 8 teams in the college football playoff hunt going into the final stretch, because you're going to have a couple, most of those teams with 2, maybe 1 loss, and how the last month of the season goes is going to determine who represents the SEC in the playoff. And I think Oklahoma could very well be sitting there on November 1, getting ready to start that final stretch with 1 or 2, just 2 losses.
Yeah.
And they'd have to go 4-0, or they'd have to go 3-1 to make it to the playoff. But there's a very real possibility that they could be in that mix.
I agree with you there. And it's funny when I look at the fact that he has no one going either undefeated or anyone only going out with 1 loss. 10-2 is probably going to be your new 11-1. Get used to losing games. It's going to happen every single year going forward, especially with the way that all of this has been set up as far as the conference realignments. Teams are going to lose games. So freaking out, the question is never about if you lose games. It's about who you lose those games to and how you lose those games. If you lose those games close, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt from the committee every single time. They're going to look at your strength of schedule and say, okay, they lost to a last-second field goal. That's the way you're going to want to lose. Of course, that's way more heartbreaking as a fan, but it's way more optimal when it comes to trying to get into the playoffs. So I hope everybody's prepared for that, John, because I don't think fans are ready for ready to understand that that's just kind of going to be the new normal going forward.
Yeah, it's parity. Parity is here. You see it in the NFL. You don't see a lot of 15-1, 16-0 teams at the end of the regular season. Teams are going to get beat up on. They're going to lose games that maybe they shouldn't, or they're going to lose games to really good competition because of a break here and there. For Oklahoma, it's out there in front of you, man. They have a great opportunity to make a lot of noise this year. It's going to be tough. They've got a tough slate, but they're certainly capable of doing what they need to do to be in the playoff mix at the end of the season. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, for more college football and Oklahoma Sooners coverage. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. We're going to do a new thing this season as we go through the 2025 schedule. Brent Venables speaks every Tuesday around 11 o'clock. We're going to go live here on Locked On Sooners to provide instant reaction to the press conference, what he had to say, hit some of the high notes right away, and then we'll talk a little bit further about what he had to say, any key injury updates, players that he's talking about later on in our Wednesday show. And we'll also be live after every single game this year, breaking down what happened in each of Oklahoma Sooners matchups in 2025. So again, we're going to be live for a lot of big time moments here on Locked On Sooners. So hit that subscribe button and be a part of the chat every time we go live. Follow us at Locked On Sooners on all your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you next time. Boomer
Sooner. We'll see what this looks like.
college football is back.
We're back, baby.